There is a moment, long after midnight, when the world feels like it's holding its breath. You may have noticed it. The clock on the wall keeps its steady, relentless pace, but the clock inside of you, the one that measures your life in heartbeats and breaths, seems to slow to a deep, quiet crawl. A single hour can feel like an entire season. A single thought can feel like a world you can walk through. Why does time itself feel different in the dark? Not just slower, but heavier, deeper, and full of a strange and quiet magic. Have you ever noticed it? Not the grand farewell of the sun in its final fiery argument with the horizon. Not even the gentle peace of twilight when the world is dipped in soft grey ink and the first stars begin to whisper. No, this moment arrives later. It comes in the deep, true dark, when the day's fever has finally broken. It comes and the only movement is the slow drift of dust in a sliver of moonlight, and the only rhythm is your own breathing, deep and steady. This is when you pass through the silent gate. It is a gateway not in space, but in perception. It isn't found on any map, nor is its arrival announced by any clock. It is a threshold where the frantic, measured pace of the day finally dissolves, and time is no longer a road you run upon. It becomes a vast, still landscape, waiting to be explored. On one side of this gate, time is a currency. It is spent, saved, wasted, and lost. It is a measured thing, a tool for productivity, a race against deadlines that are, themselves, lines drawn against the dying of the light. Daytime is a world of sharp edges and defined objects, of loud causalities where A leads to B, leads to C. We are actors in a play we believe we are writing, reciting lines of purpose and ambition, our faces lit by the harsh, clarifying glare of the song. The hours are thin, stretched taut between appointments and obligations, and they move with a relentless, hurried pace. We do not feel the moments. We merely pass through them, ticking them off a list we barely remember making. But when you cross the silent gate, the world dissolves. The tyranny of the clock face recedes. The light that defined the world is gone, and with it, the world's hard definitions. Objects in a dark room lose their certainty. A chair is no longer just a chair. It is a silhouette, a shadow, a memory of a shape. It breathes with a life it does not possess in the daylight. The familiar landscape of your life becomes an alien terrain, and in this gentle alienation, something inside you unlocks. The armor you wear to face the day, that carefully constructed persona of competence and control, begins to loosen. The ego, which speaks in the loud, declarative sentences of daylight, learns to whisper. And in that growing silence, the texture of time itself begins to change. It is no longer a river, flowing inexorably from one point to the next. Instead, it becomes a pool, deep, still, and dark. You can feel its weight. The moments are no longer fleeting transparencies. They become heavy, granular, saturated with a meaning that daylight is too bright to reveal. A single minute, which in the day would vanish in a flurry of activity, now stretches, unfurls, revealing intricate folds and hidden depths. You can almost hold it in your hand. This is the first secret of the night. Time does not simply slow down. It gains dimension. It becomes a space to be inhabited, not a track to be run. This meridian is a place of profound physics and even more profound psychology. The external stimuli that chop our daytime into manageable, marketable units, the phone calls, the emails, the distant traffic, the very quality of the light telling our bodies it is time to do, all of it recedes. As the external world goes quiet, the internal world turns up its volume. But it is a different kind of volume. It is not the noise of the ego, but the resonance of the soul. The thoughts that arise are not the frantic, problem-solving thoughts of survival. They are deeper, more meandering. They are the thoughts we hide from ourselves during the day. Here, at the silent gate, you are no longer a name, a profession, a list of responsibilities. You are a consciousness, floating in a quiet vessel. The rigid biography you perform each day softens into a more fluid mythology. The past is not a closed chapter. It is a living presence in the room. The future is not a destination to be planned for. It is a fog on the horizon of the still, dark water. This slowing is not a trick of the mind. It is a return to a more fundamental state of being. Our modern lives are a constant, accelerating sprint away from this state. We fill every pocket of silence with noise, every moment of stillness with motion, terrified of what we might find if we were to simply stop. But the night forces a halt. It gently but firmly applies the brakes. Crossing the silent gate is like stepping out of a speeding train into a silent forest. At first, the stillness is deafening. The sheer absence of momentum is disorienting. But then, your senses adjust. You begin to hear the subtler sounds, the rustle of a leaf, the call of a distant owl. You begin to see the subtler light, the glow of the moon, the impossible tapestry of the stars. This is what happens to our perception of time. Freed from the relentless forward motion of the day, our consciousness begins to notice the details, the gentle rise and fall of your own breathing, the way the shadows stretch and retreat with the passing of a single cloud, the intricate looping patterns of your own thoughts. Each becomes a universe of its own. Time slows because you are finally paying attention. Not the sharp, focused attention of a task, but the soft, open attention of a witness. The meridian is not a place of emptiness, but of profound presence. It is the moment the universe stops shouting and begins to hum. And in that hum, we remember something we have long forgotten, that we are not merely living in time, but that we are made of it. Each slow nocturnal second is a particle of our own being, and to feel it stretch is to feel the expansion of the self. It is here, in this quiet, expanded space, that we will begin our journey. For the slowness of night is not a loss of time, it is the beginning of its discovery. Once you have crossed the silent gate at midnight, the world you knew by daylight begins to change. The solid, predictable reality, with all its sharp edges and clear rules, starts to soften, and in its place, a new world unfolds. Think of the world you know during the day. It's a map drawn by your eyes. Our sense of sight is the loudest, most demanding sense we have. It defines everything, drawing hard lines between objects. This is a chair, that is a wall, this is you, and that is the world, separate and apart. Daytime space is the distance between things, a space we are always trying to cross, to conquer, to fill with activity. But at night, the world built by our eyes begins to fade. As darkness settles, it doesn't erase the world, but it erases the hard lines that divide it. The darkness is a great unifier. The room is no longer a collection of separate objects. It becomes a single, seamless territory of shadow. The distance between you and the wall is no longer just a measurement, it's a mystery. This is the first secret of the night. The map of the world changes. It is no longer a crisp blueprint, but a soft, velvet map, felt rather than seen. With the world of sight now quiet, your other senses begin to awaken, and it is hearing that becomes your new guide. The daytime is filled with a wall of noise we learn to ignore, but the night is a place of delicate, meaningful sounds. Imagine you are lying in bed, in the deep quiet. You are no longer seeing the space around you. You are listening to it. A floorboard creaks upstairs. That sound is more than just a noise. It's a piece of information. It sketches the size of the room above you. It tells a story of a house breathing in the cool night air. The low hum of a refrigerator doesn't just come from the kitchen. It creates the kitchen in your mind, a gentle anchor in the stillness. A distant siren cries out, and in that single, lonely sound, the entire sleeping city is born. Its empty streets, its dark windows, its vast and quiet presence. You are at the center of this world made of sound. The space is no longer something you look at from the outside. It's an atmosphere you are inside of, mapped by echoes and vibrations. This simple shift from seeing to hearing has a profound effect on our sense of time. A world of sight is a world of fast events, one thing happening after another. But a sound, like the distant rumble of a train, doesn't just happen and then end. It fills the space, holds it for a moment, and then slowly fades. When you listen to the night, you learn to dwell inside a single moment, feeling its shape and depth, rather than just watching it pass by. This brings us to the most important part of our new map. As the world outside becomes softer and less defined, your attention naturally begins to turn inward. The largest, most unexplored territory of the night is not the room around you, but the landscape of your own mind. The daytime mind is a busy office, constantly answering calls, solving problems, and managing tasks. But the nighttime mind is an open field under a sky full of stars. With less to do, the mind is finally free to wander, and it wanders through the strange and beautiful country of the self. This is the velvet map in its final form. It is a landscape of memory, of forgotten feelings, of quiet hopes and old fears. And in this inner world, the straight, rigid line of time dissolves completely. Think of a memory from your past. During the day, you might remember it as a fact on a timeline. That happened 10 years ago. But at night, a memory is not a fact. It is a place you can actually visit. You can walk through it, feel its emotions, and hear its sounds as if they were happening right now. The years that separate you from that moment simply vanish. The past becomes a living, breathing part of your present. This is why time feels so flexible, so elastic at night. You are no longer on a river, being carried in one direction. You are a wanderer in a vast and timeless land. You can spend an hour exploring a single feeling. You can travel from a worry about tomorrow to a moment of peace from last year in the space of a single thought. The French philosopher Gaston Bachelard called this feeling intimate immensity, the experience of a vast, infinite space opening up within a small, quiet one. This is the heart of the night. The physical world shrinks to the size of your room, but your inner world expands to the size of the universe. Time feels slower at night because you have stepped off the speeding train of the outside world and have begun a slow, walking journey through your inner one. And that journey has a rhythm all its own. The velvet map has now been unfurled, a world without sharp edges, painted by sound, whose largest and most mysterious continent is you. But what is the force that pulls this map open? What is the quiet power that draws us away from the world of the clock and into the world of the soul. That power is silence, and it has a gravity all its own. The velvet map of the night has been unfurled. A world without sharp edges, painted by sound, where the largest and most mysterious continent is you. But what is the force that allows this map to unfold? What is the quiet power that draws you away from the world of the clock and into the world of the soul? It is silence. We have a simple word of the world without pain, without cow. We have more of the union. We have more of the silence, of the moment, of the being. We think of silence as an absence, a nothingness, the empty space left when sound is taken away. But that is a daytime definition. The silence of the night is not empty. It is incredibly full. It is a presence in the room, as real and tangible as the air you breathe. It has weight. It has substance. This is the second secret of the night. Silence has gravity. Think of it this way. During the busy, noisy day, your attention is like a small stone skipping across the surface of a pond. It is constantly pulled in 1,000 different directions by 1,000 different sounds, sights, and tasks. It moves fast, touching each moment lightly before hurrying on to the next. The gravity of the world is external, pulling you outward, keeping you on the surface of things. Time feels thin and moves quickly because you are moving quickly across it. But when the profound quiet of night arrives, this changes. The countless small forces pulling your attention outward all disappear, and in their absence, a single massive force takes over, the gravity of your own consciousness. In the deep silence, your mind becomes the heaviest object in your universe. Your attention is no longer skipping across the surface. Instead, it begins to sink. It is pulled inward by the gravity of silence, down into the rich depths of each passing moment. This is why a single thought at night can feel so immense. A worry that was a fleeting distraction during the day can, in the midnight quiet, become a world you inhabit, heavy and all-consuming. A feeling of joy that was a brief flicker in the afternoon can expand in the stillness, filling every corner of your being. The silence gives our inner world weight. It amplifies the significance of our thoughts and feelings, forcing us to engage with them instead of rushing past. Time slows down because you are no longer skinning its surface. You are sinking into it, feeling its density and its depth. This is not just poetry, it is woven into our very biology. When our brains are exposed to sustained quiet, something remarkable happens. The system that is always on alert, the fight or flight network that keeps us anxious and ready to react, finally goes offline. In its place, a quieter, more reflective network takes over, known as the default mode network. This is the part of the brain associated with memory, self-reflection, and daydreaming. In effect, the gravity of silence gives your mind permission to stop reacting to the world and start contemplating it. It is in this state that time loses its urgency. The brain is no longer measuring threats per second, but is instead wandering through the vast landscapes of the past and future. The silence is a sanctuary for the mind, a place where it can finally stretch, breathe, and explore at its own much slower pace. This inward pull, this gravity of silence, does more than just deepen the present moment. It also begins to warp the very fabric of memory. It starts as a faint feeling. A sudden, vivid image from years ago flashes in your mind for no reason. a forgotten conversation plays back with perfect clarity. The feeling of a specific summer afternoon from your childhood returns, so real you can almost smell the cut grass. In the noisy rush of the day, the past is kept at a safe distance, filed away in the archives of the mind. But in the deep, heavy quiet of the night, the archives dissolve. The gravity of silence does not just pull your present awareness inward, it begins to pull the past closer too. Memories are no longer distant points you look back on. They are like forgotten ships, rising slowly from the depths, drawn to the surface by this strange and gentle force. They float in the quiet room with you, no longer memories, but presences. In the deep, heavy quiet of the night, memories begin to rise. They are drawn to the surface by the gravity of silence, floating in the still air of the room, not as thoughts, but as presences. But from where do they come? They come from a place we all carry within us, a place the night grants us the courage to explore, the long, silent hallway of memory. During the day, memory is a tool. It is practical, sharp, and serves a purpose. You remember a password, a phone number, a fact for a meeting. This is the mind, acting as a filing cabinet, quick, efficient, and impersonal. We pull out the file we need, use it, and put it back without a second thought. But the memory of the night is entirely different. It is not a tool, it is a world. It is the sudden, phantom smell of your grandmother's kitchen. It is the precise feeling of sunlight on your skin on a specific afternoon 20 years ago. And at night, it seems to fall under a strange and beautiful spell, as if the very laws that govern its flow have been suspended. Tea is the echo of a forgotten laugh, so clear it feels like the person is in the room with you. This is not information being retrieved. This is a scene being re-inhabited. The ancient Greeks had a name for this. They understood that memory was not a list, but a place. Great orators, when they needed to memorize a long speech, would use a technique called the memory palace. They would close their eyes and imagine walking through a familiar, beloved building, a temple, a villa, a home. In each room, they would place a part of their speech. The introduction by the grand entrance. The first point on a statue in the courtyard. The second beside a fountain in the garden. To recall the speech, they did not struggle to remember words. They simply took a slow, mental walk through their palace, gathering the ideas as they passed. This wasn't just a clever trick. It was a profound insight into the nature of the mind. The ancients knew that our memory is fundamentally spatial. At night, your mind naturally becomes a memory palace. You do not need to build it, it is already there. And in the deep quiet, its doors swing open. You begin to wander its corridors, drifting from room to room, from year to year. Time slows down because you are no longer on a straight road, moving forward. You are exploring a vast, internal architecture. You can spend an hour in a single room, examining every detail of a moment you thought was long gone. This feeling too has a quiet echo in science. While your body lies still at night, your brain is hard at work. In the moments before and during sleep, a silent archivist begins its nightly ritual. This process is called memory consolidation. The hippocampus, the part of your brain that captures the day's events, begins to gently replay them. It's like a director reviewing the day's footage. The important scenes, the meaningful moments, are then carefully transferred to the neocortex, the great library of long-term storage. This is not a cold, mechanical process. The brain is weaving the raw data of your day into the grand ongoing story of your life. It is connecting today's feelings to yesterday's experiences. This is why the events of the day can return with such emotional force in the quiet of the night. You are feeling them as they are being stitched into the fabric of who you are. This wandering through the hallways of the past creates a strange and beautiful feeling. It is the feeling of being a ghost in your own life. You can drift back to any moment. You can stand in any room, watch any scene unfold. You can see the faces of people you miss, hear their voices, feel the joy or sorrow of that time. But you are only a visitor, a silent observer. You cannot change a single word. You cannot alter a single outcome. The French writer, Marcel Proust, began a monumental book with such a moment. The simple taste of a Madeleine cake dipped in tea unlocked a tidal wave of involuntary memory, transporting him back to his childhood with a vividness that erased the decades in between. This is the power the night bestows upon us. We become time travelers in the museum of our own past. And a time traveler, a ghost, is not bound by the tick-tock of a clock. The rigid, linear progression of seconds and minutes becomes meaningless when you can leap 20 years into the past with a single thought. This is the deepest reason for the slowing of time. It is the feeling of being saturated with all of your moments at once. The person you were, the person you are, and the person you might become, all quietly coexisting in the same silent, timeless room. Of course, this requires a much deeper, slower, and more expansive exploration of each layer. Let us begin the descent to be a ghost in your own life, to feel the past and the present quietly coexisting in the same silent, timeless room, saturated with all of your moments at once. What is this sense we have? This strange ability to feel the texture of a moment, to sense the deep well of the past opening up within it. We talk about a sense of time as if it were a simple thing, but it is perhaps the most mysterious and intimate sense of all. And at night, it seems to fall under a strange and beautiful spell, as if the very laws that govern its flow have been suspended. The river of time, which rushes so relentlessly forward during the day, seems to slow, to meander, and to pool into deep, still lakes of contemplation. What is this internal clock, this metronome of the soul, and why does it seem to break in the most beautiful and profound way when the world goes dark? Scientists have a name for this inner feeling of time's passage. They call it chronoception. The second of long-legged violence was chronoception. It is a sense, just like sight or touch, but it is unique among them. It has no single organ. You cannot point to the part of you that feels time. It is not located in your eyes or your ears or the tips of your fingers. It is a distributed sense, a holistic experience, woven from a symphony of internal rhythms. It is born from the steady, patient drum of your heartbeat, the gentle, tidal ebb and flow of your breathing, the complex chemical tides that wash through your brain, and the electrical hum of your own nervous system. It is the silent, invisible river on which your entire reality floats. And most of the time, we are so busy navigating the river that we never stop to feel the water. During the bright, loud hours of the day, this river is forced into a well-defined channel. Your chronoception is constantly being disciplined, corrected, and calibrated by the relentless ticking of the outside world. The sun arcs across the sky, a great, and ancient celestial clock, dividing the day into measurable acts. Your daily schedule, the meetings, the meals, the digital reminders, the commute home, acts like a series of locks in a canal, marking the hours with sharp, artificial precision. The constant barrage of information, the sheer speed of external events, from the flicker of a screen to the flow of traffic, all force your inner clock to tick faster and faster, just to keep up with the frantic pace. The daytime river is swift and narrow, and we are carried along by its powerful current, often too fast to ever truly notice the scenery of our own lives passing by. But at night, the river leaves its banks. When darkness falls and the world goes quiet, all of the external markers that disciplined your sense of time disappear. The sun is gone, the schedule is finished. The noise of the world recedes into a distant hum. Your chronoception is left to its own devices, untethered, unmoored, floating in the gentle shadow of the clockwork world. And here, in this profound and liberated stillness, it begins to follow a different set of laws. It begins to listen to a different kind of music. Without the drumbeat of external events to measure, your inner clock begins to measure internal ones. It syncs not to the position of the sun, but to the slow, steady, and profound rhythm of your own breathing. It measures the quiet, empty space between your heartbeats, a space you were too rushed to notice during the day. It calibrates itself to the gentle, meandering, and unpredictable pace of your own thoughts as they drift like clouds across the landscape of your mind. And because these internal rhythms are so much slower, so much more subtle and organic than the frantic, mechanical pulse of the day, your entire perception of time begins to stretch, to expand, to soften, to breathe. It is as if you have been listening to a frantic, marching band all day, and suddenly you are alone in a vast concert hall, listening to the slow, resonant notes of a single cello. Imagine you are awake in the deepest hour of the night. You are in your kitchen, and a single drop of water is forming at the edge of a faucet. The house is an ocean of silence around you. During the day, this would be a trivial event, a background noise, lasting less than a second. But now, it becomes a spectacle, a grand and patient drama. Your chronoception, freed from its daytime duties, zooms in. You are no longer measuring time in minutes or seconds, but in the slow, deliberate, and beautiful story of the water droplet. You feel the tension of its surface as it swells, defying gravity for a moment longer than seems possible. You see the faint, distorted reflection of the room in its tiny, perfect sphere. You anticipate its fall, and when it finally lets go, a heavy, silver tear, the sound it makes in the basin below is not a tick, but a chime. A single, resonant note that marks the end of an epoch. You have just spent what feels like an age watching a universe be born and die in that single drop. Your mind, in the absence of a larger narrative, has recalibrated its sense of duration to this tiny, silent dance. This is the magic of chronoception's shadow. It reveals the immense and hidden depth within the smallest of moments. This experience is not merely a psychological trick or a poetic fancy. It is rooted in the oldest and most fundamental parts of our biology. Deep within your brain, seated in the hypothalamus, is a master clock. It is a tiny, elegant cluster of about 20,000 neurons, known as the suprachiasmatic nucleus. For hundreds of millions of years, this inner clockmaker has learned to tell time by reading the most ancient and reliable language on Earth, the language of sunlight. It is the first photons of morning light hitting the retina of our eyes that tells this clock when to start the day, when to release the hormones like cortisol that make us feel alert and awake, and when to begin the slow, gentle process of preparing the body for sleep as the light fades. This clock is a genius of solar time, but it is not the only clock within you. In a discovery that has transformed our understanding of biology, scientists have found that nearly every organ, every tissue, every single cell in your body has its own peripheral clock. Your liver has a clock that knows when to process nutrients. Your muscles have a clock that governs repair. Your skin has a clock that prepares for the onslaught of daytime radiation. You are not a single clock. You are a city of clocks, a teeming metropolis of billions of timekeeping devices. During the day, they are all synchronized by the great central clock tower of the brain, all chiming in unison to the rhythm of the sun. But at night, when the master conductor of sunlight is absent, something incredible happens. In the deep quiet, the city of clocks becomes decentralized. You can almost feel the individual, subtle ticking of these countless smaller timepieces. This is why time can feel so fluid, so strange and layered at night. You are no longer experiencing a single, unified time, but a great chorus of biological rhythms, all singing their own slow, ancient songs. Your body temperature drops, your metabolism slows, your very cells begin their work of repair and restoration on a different, more patient schedule. At night, you are literally running on a different kind of time, one that is more ancient, more decentralized, more fluid, and far, far slower than the mechanical, unified clock on the wall. This untethered, shadowed chronoception does more than just slow the moments down. It changes the very nature of the present moment itself. The now of the daytime is a razor's edge. It is a frantic, thin, and almost non-existent point in time that is constantly arriving and instantly vanishing. We are always rushing from a past we are trying to forget into a future we are trying to control, with the present being little more than a blurry doorway we pass through without ever truly seeing. The present moment of the day is a point, but the crack now of the night is different. It is not a point. It is not a thin line. It is a vast, deep, and open field. Think of it, once more, like the aperture of a camera. During the day, the aperture is wide open to the brilliant flood of light and information. To capture it all without being overexposed, the shutter must be incredibly fast. Each moment is a quick, sharp, and disposable snapshot. Click, click, click. But at night, the aperture of your senses narrows. It focuses on the few subtle and beautiful things that remain. A single thought, a deep feeling, the silhouette of a tree outside your window against the faintly glowing sky. To capture these faint and delicate details, the shutter of your awareness must stay open for a long, long time. The present moment becomes a long exposure photograph. It is not a fleeting instant, but a deep, rich, and developing image, saturated with detail, nuance, history, and feeling. You are no longer rushing through the now. You are dwelling within it. The French philosopher Henri Bergson spoke of this. He made a distinction between let time, clock time, which is quantitative and spatial, a series of dots on a line, and la durée, duration, which is time as it is lived and felt, a continuous, qualitative, and indivisible flow. The night is a portal out of clock time and into the direct experience of duration. You feel the unfolding of your own existence, not as a sequence of events, but as a single, complex, and evolving reality. In this deep, open now, the self becomes less of a soldier and more of a telescope. And through it, for the first time, you can quiet your own inner noise enough to see the stars. And as you gaze out into that silent, jeweled darkness, you can feel the faint stirrings of something even larger, something cosmic. What is revealed in this long, slow exposure of the present moment? What is the final, breathtaking image that develops in the deep, quiet, dark of your own awareness? It is the dissolution of the self and the simultaneous discovery of the cosmos. During the day, you are a character in a very important, very serious, and often very exhausting story. The story is called Me. You are its protagonist, its hero. You have a name you must defend, a history you must justify, a set of goals you must achieve, a list of fears you must avoid, a collection of responsibilities you must uphold. This character is a fortress you have built, stone by careful stone, to protect a small, vulnerable part of you from a world that often feels chaotic and overwhelming. It is a necessary and brilliant construction. It allows you to function, to love, to work, to navigate the complex social map of human life. But it is also, in its own way, a cage. The walls of this fortress, built to keep you safe, are so high and so thick that they block out the vast, mysterious, and beautiful sky. But at night, in the deep, profound, and trusting stillness, the story begins to fade. The character you play all day, with all its urgent dramas and its carefully rehearsed anxieties, grows tired. The tireless narrator of your life, the one who is always explaining, justifying, and worrying, finally falls silent. The high walls of the fortress, which seemed so solid and so important just hours before, become transparent. And then they dissolve completely, like mist in the cool night air, and you are left with something far older, far simpler, and infinitely larger than the story of you. You are left with pure awareness, a silent, watchful presence that has no name, no history, and no agenda. It is a feeling that can be both exhilarating and terrifying. Without the familiar armor of your personality, you feel utterly open, utterly vulnerable, but you also feel boundless. The tight, constricted sense of being a separate I, a single, isolated point of consciousness trapped inside a body, begins to expand. You feel the edges of yourself blurring, softening, reaching out to meet the quiet dark of the room, and then the sky beyond. This is not an escape from reality. It is a return to a more fundamental one, and the anchor that connects you to this larger reality, the thread that guides you out of the labyrinth of the self and into the open space of the cosmos, is the simplest, most overlooked, and most profound rhythm of your life, your breath. Pay attention to it now, in this quiet moment. Feel the air enter your body. It is cool, quiet, and full of the night. It is a gift from the world outside, a silent, invisible river of oxygen, flowing from the trees, from the great, breathing lungs of the planet itself. This air you are breathing has traveled. It has been warmed by the sun, cooled by the stratosphere, and has passed through the leaves of 1,000 different plants in 1,000 different places. It is ancient, and the atoms within it are more ancient still. A famous astronomer, Carl Sagan, once told us that we are made of star stuff. And this is not a beautiful line of poetry. It is the literal scientific truth. The carbon in your cells, the fundamental building block of your life, the nitrogen in your DNA, the code that makes you who you are, the iron in your blood that carries this precious oxygen. All of it was created in the impossibly hot and violent heart of a star that lived and died billions of years ago. These elements were forged in a nuclear furnace and then scattered across the cosmos in a final, violent and beautiful explosion. A supernova. They drifted through the cold, silent void for eons, gathering like dust into great, swirling clouds we call nebulae, which slowly, patiently, under the gentle and relentless pull of gravity, formed new suns, new planets, and eventually, this small blue world and you. Trace the impossible journey of a single oxygen atom you are about to inhale. From the core of a sun 100 times larger than our own, across millions of light years of empty space, to the atmosphere of a young and volatile Earth. Through the leaf of a Mesozoic fern, grazed upon by dinosaurs, released back into the air, and finally, after an unimaginable journey, into your lungs, in this very moment, in this very room. So when you breathe, you are not just taking in air, you are participating in a cosmic ritual that has been unfolding since the beginning of time. With every single inhale, you draw the entire 15 billion year history of the universe into the very core of your being. You are breathing in the ash of distant, long dead stars. And with every single exhale, you release a small piece of yourself, your warmth, your carbon dioxide, back into the great cosmic ocean. You are returning the gift. You are contributing your own brief, warm signature to the ongoing story of the cosmos. This is the universe in a single breath. And in the profound silence of the night, this simple, autonomic act becomes a powerful and transformative meditation. It becomes the bridge between the infinitely small world of your own body and the infinitely large world of the cosmos. As you focus on this slow, steady, and patient rhythm, your human scale sense of time begins to shatter completely. Our lives are measured in decades. Our history is measured in centuries. We are obsessed with the frantic, fleeting, and self-important timeline of our own species. But when you feel the stardust in your lungs, when you feel the ancient history in your very blood, you begin to sense a different kind of time, a time that is not measured in years or even in millennia, but in eons. This is deep time. Imagine once more the entire history of the universe as a single calendar year. The Big Bang happens in the first second of January 1st. The great galaxies, including our own Milky Way, don't form until the spring. Our Sun and Earth were born in early September. The first signs of life, simple single-celled organisms, appear in the oceans by the end of that month. The dinosaurs roam the Earth in the middle of December and are gone by Christmas. All of human history, from the first cave paintings in Lascaux to the Great Pyramids, from the Roman Empire to the rockets we send to the moon, all of it takes place in the final few seconds before midnight on December 31st. Your own entire life, with all its loves and losses, its triumphs and its sorrows, its moments of despair and its flashes of unbearable beauty, is less than the blink of an eye in the final, fleeting moment of the year. During the day, this thought can feel crushing, a cold, clinical reminder of our own insignificance in a vast and indifferent universe. But at night, in the quiet, expanded and sacred present, it feels entirely different. It feels like a liberation. It feels like a profound and gentle grace. The crushing weight of your personal story, your failures, your anxieties, which felt so heavy and so important just hours before, is lifted. They are all revealed to be what they are, a tiny, brief and beautiful flicker in an immense and ancient darkness. This cosmic perspective does not make your life meaningless. Paradoxically, it makes this single present moment infinitely and unbearably precious, because this moment, this breath, this flicker of awareness is your one and only point of contact with the entire 15 billion year history of the cosmos. You are not just a person in a room. You are a temporary and miraculous collection of stardust, gifted with the astonishing and impossible ability to be aware of its soul. You are a brief, beautiful flicker of consciousness in the heart of an ancient sleeping universe. You are the cosmos, waking up for a single precious moment to witness its own terrible and beautiful mystery. The ancient peoples of the world knew this feeling in their bones. They built great stone circles like Stonehenge and Newgrange, not as fortresses or homes, but as cosmic clocks, as sacred observatories, designed to align their small, fragile human lives with the vast, slow, silent, and eternal cycles of the sun, the moon, and the stars. They understood that to find peace, you must sync your own frantic inner rhythm with the great, slow, and patient rhythm of the universe. The night gives us this opportunity without the need for stones. It quiets the frantic, selfish noise of the human world so that we can finally hear the older, deeper music. The slow, patient turning of the planet on its axis, the silent, relentless burning of 1 trillion distant suns, the steady, rhythmic pulse of our own breathing, a tiny, perfect echo of the great cosmic heartbeat. You are a brief, beautiful note in an eternal piece of music. And for a moment, in the deep quiet of the night, you can hear the whole song. You are a brief, beautiful note in an eternal piece of music. And for a moment, in the deep and resonant quiet of the night, you have heard the whole song. Stay here for a moment. Do not move. Do not even think. Simply be with this feeling. The feeling of being infinitely small, and yet, at the same time, utterly and completely a part of everything. The frantic, chattering story of me, with its endless lists of worries and desires, has finally gone silent. The high, thick walls of the ego, the fortress you have so carefully constructed to navigate the day, have dissolved like sugar in water. And in their place, there is a quiet, boundless peace, a sense of belonging that is so deep and so ancient, it feels more like a memory than a discovery. It is a return to a state of being that was yours long before you were given a name, long before you were told your first story. This is the ultimate gift of the night. It does not give you answers to the small questions that plague your days. It returns you to a state of being where those questions no longer feel so heavy, a state where you can feel the vast, silent and benevolent indifference of the cosmos as a comfort rather than a threat. This is the resonance. Like a great bell that has been struck in the center of your soul, the sound may fade, but the vibration remains, humming in your very bones. This is the stillness that underlies all motion, the silence that gives birth to all sound. But this journey, this slow and beautiful descent into the velvet dark of your own inner universe, is not a one-way trip. The night is not a destination at which we arrive. It is a sanctuary, and like all true sanctuaries, its purpose is not to keep you forever in its quiet halls, but to heal you, to replenish you, to remind you of your own depth, so that you may return to the world with a renewed sense of grace and perspective. And so now, after this long and quiet voyage, begins the slow ascent, the gentle, unhurried journey back to the surface of the world. It is not an abrupt awakening, not a sudden shock, but a gradual and graceful transition, as slow and patient as the night itself. You can feel it starting. It is not yet a light, but the memory of light. It is the faintest shift in the quality of the air in the room. The deep, absolute ink black of the midnight hour. A blackness so total it felt like a substance begins to thin. It softens at the edges, bleeding imperceptibly into a deep and luminous indigo. You may see it if you open your eyes, a single pale and impossibly delicate line of blue drawn by a celestial artist against the eastern horizon. It is the world which seemed to have vanished into a dream, slowly beginning to remember its own shape. The silhouette of a tree outside your window separates itself from the sky. The furniture in your room begins to emerge from the shadows, not as the hard, defined objects of the day, but as soft, sleeping forms, still draped in the peace of the night. Then comes the first sound. It is not the lonely, resonant, and internal sound of the deep night, but a new kind of sound. The first tentative, crystalline chirp of a single bird, testing the great silence. It is a sound that does not create the vast space of the night, but instead announces the return of the world's familiar dimensions. It is the first brave note of the daytime song, a melody that will soon swell, instrument by instrument, into the great, complex, and busy symphony of the morning. This is the liminal space, the sacred and fleeting threshold between the world of the soul and the world of the clock. It is the moment between the dream and the waking, a precious and magical state of being known as the blue hour. For a little while, you can inhabit both worlds at once. You can feel the quiet, cosmic peace of the universe still humming within you, even as you hear the familiar sounds of the morning beginning to stir and call you back. Do not rush this moment. This is where the magic of the night is integrated. This is where the healing becomes a permanent part of you. This is the moment the butterfly dries its wings before its first flight. The self that dissolved into the cosmos during the night does not simply switch back on. Its return is a gradual process, a slow and gentle reforming. First, there is the simple awareness of the body, the gentle weight of it in the bed, the feeling of the sheets against your skin. Then, the first stirrings of personal memory begin to surface, not the deep, timeless, and archetypal memories of the night, but the practical, linear memories of the coming day. But even this thought is different. It is not yet charged with the anxiety of the day. It is a simple fact, floating in a sea of calm. You can observe it without being swept away by it. This is not a loss of the cosmic connection, but rather the great, boundless universe pouring itself back into the unique and precious vessel of your individual life. The great and final question: the one that gives our entire nocturnal journey its meaning, is not what you find in the darkness. The great question is what you bring back with you into the light. How do you carry the vast, slow, and patient time of the cosmos into a day that is measured in frantic, demanding minutes? How do you hold on to the feeling of boundless connection when the world is insisting that you be a separate, competitive, and armored self? How do you keep the music of the universe playing in your heart when the noise of the world threatens to drown it out? This is the final secret. The night is not an escape from the day, it is a preparation for it. The deep, restorative darkness is a training ground for how to live in the brilliant and often blinding light. The wise of every age, in every culture, have known this. The mystics of the desert, who would pray in the cold silence before dawn. The Zen monks who would sit in meditation in the darkest hour, facing a blank wall. The poets who would walk under the moon, waiting for a deeper truth to reveal itself. They all understood that to be truly present, compassionate, and alive in the loud glare of the sun, you must first learn to sit peacefully and fearlessly in the deep, quiet, and profound darkness. And you have been training all night. You have learned and remembered things that the daytime self is too busy to notice. You learned to see the world not just with your eyes, but with all your senses. You learned that beneath the hard, practical daytime map of facts and borders, there is a deeper, softer, velvet map of feeling and connection that is always there, waiting to be felt. When you walk out into your day, you can carry this second map with you. You can learn to feel the emotional texture of a room you enter, the unspoken resonance in a difficult conversation. You can see past the surface of things and feel the hidden currents of life that flow beneath. You have learned that silence has a gravity, a real and tangible power to pull you inward, to give weight and depth to your own thoughts and feelings. You can carry this gravity into the day. You are not powerless against the relentless rush of the modern world. You can create small, sacred pockets of silence for yourself, in a 5-minute walk without your phone, in a moment of quiet contemplation before a meal, in the simple, revolutionary act of closing your eyes and taking 3 slow breaths before answering an email. In these moments, you can allow yourself to sink, just for a moment, back into your own center, recalibrating your inner world and remembering the peace of the night. You have learned that your mind is a great and beautiful palace of memory, full of echoes and presences, of rooms filled with light and rooms filled with shadow. You carry this palace with you always. This knowledge, when you truly let it sink in, can bring a profound and transformative sense of compassion. When you interact with the people in your life, your family, your friends, your colleagues, even a stranger on the street, you can remember that they too have a vast, complex, and unseen inner architecture. They too are walking through their own hallways, haunted by their own ghosts, and inspired by their own hidden sanctuaries. You are not just talking to a person, you are standing at the doorway of a vast and mysterious lifetime. This understanding can dissolve anger, melt judgment, and create a space for a much deeper and more authentic kind of human connection. You've learned to feel your own chronoception, that strange and beautiful inner clock. You now know that you have the power to consciously alter your perception of time. When the day feels like it is running away from you, you can choose to find your own spider on a thread, your own water droplet. You can practice the art of the long exposure. You can zoom in on a single, simple sensory experience, the warmth of a cup of coffee in your hands, the feeling of the air on your face, the intricate pattern in a leaf on the ground. By giving your full, undivided attention to one small thing, you can step out of the frantic river of clock time and into the deep, still ocean of the present moment, even if just for a few seconds. these seconds are a form of salvation. They are the cracks where the light of the night can shine through into the day. And most importantly, you remembered that you are made of stardust, a brief and beautiful witness to a cosmic story of impossible scale. This is the ultimate anchor. This is the great perspective shifter. When the small frustrations and anxieties of the day begin to build, when a deadline feels like the end of the world, when a conflict feels like an unbearable weight, you can return to the feeling of your own breath. You can, in that simple, rhythmic act, touch the eternal. You can place your worry onto a single grain of sand and see it for what it is against the backdrop of an infinite beach. This does not invalidate your feelings, but it holds them in a much larger, much more compassionate context. It allows you to face the challenges of your life with a quiet, unshakable grace, a deep and abiding sense of humor, and a profound and gentle peace. This is what it means to bring the night into the day. A life lived only in the frantic, clarifying, and productive light of the sun can feel, over time, like a photograph taken in black and white. It is functional. It is clear. It captures the facts of the world. It gets things done. But it lacks something. It lacks depth. It lacks nuance. It lacks mystery. It lacks color. The experiences of the night, the quiet introspection, the wandering through memory, the dissolution of the ego, the feeling of cosmic connection. This is what adds the color. This is what gives your life its meaning, its poetry, and its soul. The slowing of time at night is not a bug in our perception. It is a feature of our consciousness. It is a necessary and beautiful counterpoint to the relentless rush of modern life. It is the world's gentle nightly invitation to stop, to breathe, and to remember who you really are, beyond the character you play and the schedule you keep. The sun is rising now. You can see its first golden rays touching the tops of the trees. A new day is being born, full of promise and demand. But you do not have to rush to meet it. You do not have to leap out of bed and immediately put on the old armor in the same hurried way. You have returned from a long and profound journey. You are different than you were when the sun went down. You carry the quiet of the cosmos within you. The deep, patient, and ancient rhythm of the stars is in your blood. The vast, silent peace of the night is now a part of your soul. The color of tomorrow is not in the sunrise. It is not in the events that will happen or the goals you will achieve. It is in the way you choose to see it. It is in the quiet you choose to carry with you. It is in the depth you now know is always there, waiting for you, just beneath the surface of the day. Breathe it in and begin.